Let me say, issues division in the party, according to me, it is neither here nor there. These are creations of individual opinions and media per se. Because you realize the party you are talking about is known as Orange Democratic Movement. The word democratic means every element in the party has equal opportunity to give his or her own opinion. And as you also know, when you go to our Constitution, Chapter 4, there are fundamental rights. One of it is freedom of association, expression, and whatnot. There are so many. And when you see a section of membership of the party trying to give divergent opinions, to me that is democracy and respect to Chapter 4. But at the same time, I want to tell you why that thing is so. You realize that any institution that is having a leadership that conforms to the general personalities within that institution, you realize that there are less talk and less divergence. But the moment the figurehead is not there, you realize everybody wants to pull shots. And that is what is ailing the party. But given time, I can tell you, we are not going to see much variation in terms of the party composition. And so, with the fullness of time towards the general election, you are going to get one party, that is ODM, giving direction from one point.
Inakuja tonga nguvu. I go by the name of Ochino, the only Kenyan who is a man, a boy, and also a friend. And of course, when we see us seated here is because we're having a conversation that you've requested for us to have. And of course, today's conversation is a conversation surrounding the latest development in Kenyan politics. And of course, to analyze this, we have a guest who is not a stranger to the show. He's a person that you've seen in this show when you started watching. And a lot of you usually are very interested to hear what his side of the political analysis of the current politics in the country is. He's here back once again after a while. Tujaonana naye for quite some time, but at least finally when we reached out to him, at least schedule yake, though busy squeeze, at least aliweza ku fix time for us so that we can have this discussion. Aliet.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
I know a lot of your fans kwa channel yetu wamekuwa wakisema Aliet alienda wapi. I think nowadays also it's a true realization that your schedule pia inakuwa more tighter and tighter, especially as we get also just to the heightening of political activities. But in the country, the mood right now, it's so mambo inaanza kuchemka. Watu ground wanasema mambo inaanza kuchemka, and we're seeing a lot of political activities. Maybe for Judge Aliet, how can you analyze the current political mood in the country generally?
Thank you very much. Just as the way you've said, the schedule is very tight because we also have to fight to make ends meet. But equally, you have to juggle all those. Now, as you know, as a country, we've rebranded to be a political country. Immediately after the ballot, we start doing politics. But the momentum or the tempo going forward from, let's say, this month onwards up to the ballot, it is going to be very vigorous and very tight. Yes.
And also with the population that is also continuing to be more and more civic aware, are we going to see maybe a different tact or a different kind of campaigns towards 2027, that is from the presidency all the way down to the MCA? Are we going to see a different kind of politics, or kuna vitu zile zenye basics zenye even if how much politics changes lazima bado zitakuwa pale kwa campaign strategy ya each and every person who will vie?
The system is just going to be the same. All is going to happen is that there are going to be additives based on our technological developments. But the way it is done, it is going to be one-on-one. The media, the technology, others, yeah, those are the things that are going to work. But the real thing, the real campaign is just going to be the same the way it used to be. Yeah.
Let's now get into much more into details of the current political developments, and with that we're going to look into the biggest party in East and Central Africa. They usually say Northern Limpopo and South of Sahara. That is the ODM, or the Democratic Movement. And of course, ever since Raila's death, who is the party founder and also their leader for 20 years, ODM is on a shaky terrain. And now we have the formation of Babu Wino, Edwin Sifuna, and the likes, who, when you look at it generally, it's like the younger minds in ODM. They had a rally in Busia, and for them, it's like they have a parallel view of what the party leader and the brigade has currently ideologically. Maybe for George Aliet, as also as an ODM party member, hizi msukosuko ziko ndani ya ODM, how can you just generally analyze them?
Okay, let me say, issues division in the party, according to me, it is neither here nor there. These are creations of individual opinions and media per se. Because you realize the party you are talking about is known as Orange Democratic Movement. The word democratic means every element in the party has equal opportunity to give his or her own opinion. And as you also know, when you go to our Constitution, Chapter 4, there are fundamental rights. One of it is freedom of association, expression, and whatnot. There are so many. And when you see a section of membership of the party trying to give divergent opinions, to me that is democracy and respect to Chapter 4. But at the same time, I want to tell you why that thing is so. You realize that any institution that is having a leadership that conforms to the general personalities within that institution, you realize that there are less talk and less divergence. But the moment the figurehead is not there, you realize everybody wants to pull shots. And that is what is ailing the party. But given time, I can tell you, we are not going to see much variation in terms of the party composition. And so, with the fullness of time towards the general election, you are going to get one party, that is ODM, giving direction from one point. Yeah. So the people you talk about, they are a fraction of young men who are also doing their bit. And the mainstream party leadership, that is headed by the youth leader, Odinga, and Big Gladys Wanga as the chairperson. There is where the organogram of the party lies. But how are we going to get away with some of these things? I think there are mechanisms of how the party streamlines our activities and pronouncements. And this is where you realize, given time, under proper preparation, we are going to have an NDC. And the NDC is going to make ratification of the right party leadership and give direction of how the parties will operate going forward. But for now, everybody is entitled to his or her own opinion. But at the end of the day, whoever insists that his or her own opinion is what matters, and that opinion doesn't conform with the party, is going to give us space. Yes.
And also, just with the many analyses that you usually give on this channel, you're usually very clear that political parties are formed to attain power.
Yes.
And now that ODM finds itself in a situation whereby already in the current broad-based arrangement, they are a political party that has tapped into power. Now, when the likes of Babu Wino, the likes of Edwin Sifuna are being portrayed as if they want to run away or they want to move away from this faction that is in ODM and already they have attained that power, are they being unfair to the party? Or are they just having a political theatric whereby they also want to create their political profiles going forward past 2027, basing the fact that they are young leaders, and who is duping the ODM common mwananchi pale kwa ground, ule mwenye na believe in whatever ODM says? Don't you think then they are wanawacha kwa njia panda, because they either support this side of Babu Owino or they support this other side ya Oburu Odinga and the senior ODM leadership? Who is fooling who?
I might not say who is fooling who, but the denominator of our aspects as a party is that, just as the way you are saying, political parties are formed to attain power. But even if you have that interest of attaining power, there are so many parameters you have to consider. There are factors that must be kept constant for you to succeed. And so that's why we always say your goals must be realistic, accurate, and achievable. At this point in time, if we are not just in a wasteful thinking mode, ODM cannot purport to present a presidential candidate based on so many aspects that are there. So having an arrangement that is not really formal with the current government today, then we think as party members, already we are almost at 3/4 in power. And so we have no business discarding the 3/4 and looking for the full quarter. And that's why I always say that issues party, given opportunity, we have the leadership that will be giving direction. As a party, they need to sit down and organize and ensure that we champion the right cause. But as it is today, I can tell you on affirmative, ODM as a party is not very ready to go and fill a presidential candidate. And that's why at any given time, there's only that room to have constructive engagement with the current government to ensure that the ODM party gets a fair share, without literally trying to champion of getting to power by ourselves. And that's why at any given time, sometimes I say, if what the people who are in Busia, the Amisis, the Ososis, are not fixtures with what they are doing, then I think they have to sit down with the main party stream and ensure that we champion as a family. But then if they are not so, then the only noble thing they are going to do is that they are going to walk away from the party and go to whichever party they feel is good for them. And you see, sometimes taking some of these people serious is not very easy. Because in Kenya, we don't always have rumors. When you get somebody says something, there's some sense in what that person is talking about. Some of these people have already formed political parties. So the agitation to us serious party members doesn't hold water. What they are trying to do, according to me, is just trying to give a dog a bad name so that when they kill it, nobody will raise an eyebrow. But at the same time, it is probably they are on a mission. And the mission is they are acting on behalf of their masters. So they are just proxies. But being Kenyans the way we are, we lack people who are not literate. They are very few. And so whatever they are doing, with the fullness of time, the truth is going to come out. And that one will render them irrelevant as such. Yes.
Speaking about proxies, there's the issue of Azimio la Umoja. We saw there's a meeting that was held that in the name of Azimio la Umoja meeting. And there are some section of ODM also who are rumored to be there attending that meeting. As we speak currently, is Azimio la Umoja still a viable outfit in the political space going towards 2027? And what is the fate of ODM inside that Azimio la Umoja?
However much I'm entitled to my opinion, but the factual truth is, in a unison where there are different parties, like when you go to the monetary aspects, they talk of the nominal fees. In the Azimio la Umoja, we are different parties, name them. Jubilee, ODM, Wiper, and whatnot. There were quite a number of parties. But now the begging question is, these parties had how many in terms of elected representatives? ODM had how many MPs? Wiper and Jubilee. So whatever thing that existed in the name of Azimio, it was a spent force the moment they failed to attain power. And the moment the ODM party started working with the government, that was the time the last nail was inked on the coffin of the Azimio la Umoja. Because without ODM, Azimio la Umoja is a shell. Yes, it also remained with personalities there, but there's nothing there. Yes.
And also just looking at the terrain currently as is, I remember the last time that we were here doing an interview with you,
Yes.
It was when President Ruto had extended the olive branch to Mama Ida Odinga for the job ya UNEP. And as of now, she has already accepted that job, and she's officially now an employee, or maybe working for the UNEP. And a lot of people are saying that if at all she takes that job, then it will send a political message. Speaking as of now that she took that job, and there is two factions within ODM, as a person who also is very closely associated with ODM, that is Ed Odinga, which side do you think she supports to champion the cause of ODM moving forward towards 2027?
One thing that is apparent, Ida and politics are two different things. We only tend to associate Ida with the politics of the party by virtue of the latitude the husband had. But now, she might decide to go by the ODM ideals or not. The only difference is that when she decides to go by ODM ideals, she might make pronouncements to that effect. But if she might not, then she might decide not to support, but equally to keep quiet. But at the same time, that one gives a clear indication that when you think of something but you don't act, just like you support it. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the truth of the matter is, however much sometimes Ida might not be interested on the mainstream party and what they do, but as long as she has managed to be an employee of a renowned institution like UN, then she's duty bound to remain quiet. Yes. But at the same time, that one is going to tone down the daughter's pronouncements. Yes. But equally, I want to tell you for a fact, what the daughter speaks, it's what the mother speaks. It is only that the mother doesn't come out. But when you get Winnie talking, that's Ida's language. Yes. But the moment she decided to take that seat, of course, I support her 1,000 times. Because that's the only place now she needs to make her busy. There are so many things people do not know. If you not lost a loved one, there are things you don't know. Ida might take that seat not because he wants a job or not because he wants money, but just to make her become a bit busy so that some of these things can be erased in her mind. Yes.
And also, just moving away from the ODM party now, let's focus on this other side, whereby the opposition is finding itself in a very hard position. They're finding themselves in a place where they're struggling with how to show or how to provide ideas for the common mananchi, because it is very evident that any time that the opposition is criticizing projects of the government, they're criticizing projects that are benefiting the citizens, the common mananchi palika ground. And even the president himself usually comes out to say that the opposition doesn't have an agenda. They don't have a plan that they want to sell for the Kenyan people, but they're busy criticizing the government, having a personal even attacks to the president himself. Is the opposition a group of people who are bitter and they have a personal vendetta against the president? And how can the opposition maybe find themselves in a position whereby they at least sell the agenda to the mananchi, to the electorate, so that they can also just be considered when they're going towards the election? Or maybe what is it that the opposition does not get in how President William Ruto does his development and also his politics currently as president of Kenya?
The challenge with our united opposition is one. They started from a wrong footing, because their sloganeering statements were Kasongo, one term, you know them, Sakayo. So there wasn't a manifesto or what they were intended to deliver. Now, you can only challenge a regime if that regime is not performing. But now the bar is high. The current president has set that bar very high. And at this point in time, I'm not complaining because of the information dissemination. The opposition is gradually losing the information war. Because initially, they could have said, Mheshimiwa Rais and administration does not do this, ABCD. They saw service delivery. But now, fine, the only thing they are trying to dangle to the general public is the economic pressure based on taxation. But now, on the other flip side, the government is taxing, but the government is equally delivering. So they've lost that information war. So the only thing, for them to have a little bit of the traction, It is either they sell the tribal card or they go back to the drawing board and try to sell what is appealing to the general public. Because without that, at this point in time, the fulcrum is already weighing 60 on side of the government and 40,000 on the side of the opposition. So if you go further again, that they fail to get united, that is not also feasible, then I think they've lost terribly. Yes. And that's why sometimes back I did say that moving forward, it is going to reach a time when people are not going to get anything to castigate Ruto's administration with. Probably the people who are going to remain castigating him are a few people who are having personal vendetta with him.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also with that, now it leaves the opposition at a place where they've been turned into critics of what the president is doing. And anytime that they usually give a statement, or anytime that they are criticizing the government, they're criticizing a development project that is going on currently. Does that now mean that the opposition, as it stands, they don't stand a chance of winning in 2027? And also, on the other side, if at all now the government is to win 2027, maybe why is it important for them to win with a large percentage, a difference of many votes? Because during the UDA forum that happened last week, when the president was meeting aspirants for 2027 elections under UDA, he told them that at least they should win with a margin of 2 million votes. Maybe how is that important, the margin that the president plans to win in 2027 in terms of his second term in office?
One thing, the probability question of opposition winning is, to me, is not there. I cannot even talk of how far or what percentage is not there. And two, the main reason why the opposition has lost the game in terms of information war, you can never criticize a project that to the subjects, it is viable and it is productive for them. Like, for example, when you now say Nyota is a campaign tool, fine, it might be a campaign tool. But if it is a campaign tool, is it doing something in terms of changing the life of the human being? You say affordable housing is a campaign gimmick. Are these houses there? Is it solving our settlement schemes, problems? Are you getting what I'm saying? So some of these things, they've now remained to be whistleblowers, but whistleblowing on a positive thing. They're even alerting those people who don't even know what Nyota is, to know what Nyota is. They are even now trying to alert people to know that even somebody who is not in the middle class can own a home. Are you getting that? So the moment they are trying to talk about some of these things, they help the government to give information to the general public. What is this Nyota? What is this SHA? What's the difference with the SHA and the NHIF? What is the difference when I have an health scheme or not? What's the difference of having a private insurance health scheme vis-a-vis SHA? So Kenyans tend to get enlightened day by day. And on matters, the variation or the range of the defeat, I think it is very important to us more so, those who are propagating the two-term agenda, because of the emotive nature of the politics of our brothers. Because when the margin is small, it is very easy for them to incite that the votes are stolen. But when the margin is big, it is something that is not even going to dissuade somebody who is stupid. Because when you have, between me and you, there's a variation of 2 million. You can literally not come up and say, I've stolen that vote. So that's why the clarion call, the margin between the current president and whoever is going to vie against him should be that enormous, so that they lack that thing to say, despite the fact that they are trying to brainwash young people or voters to believe that Mheshimiwa Rais doesn't have votes. It's only a matter of him stealing. That's the only time he can be a victor. Yes.
And with that in mind, maybe just an overview, it might be maybe an early prediction, but just an overview of what do you think is the most viable coalition to win it with that big margin for President William Ruto? Is the strategy trying to at least have support in each and every base of the country, or is the strategy trying to at least have the top three major political bases in the country in his side towards 2027 elections? which of the two, which one do you think is more viable and which one do you think is more achievable to achieve that margin of 2 million gap plus?
What I can tell you, the first denominator is service delivery. Yes, the first denominator is service delivery. Like already our politics taking shapes. We always have our voting pattern and our voter index. So all these things considered, I think that margin is going to be achieved. Because, for example, today, if you now talk of ODM family, you call it south of Sahara, north of Limpopo, ODM. ODM, you talk about the cost. Probability question of getting disjointed votes from the coast is probably partially in Kwale, partially in Malindi, and partially in Taita Taveta. This other place is ODM. You go to Western, it is only a matter that we have to ensure that the narrative is properly sold so that they don't see it as the way Sifonas and the associates are trying to bring it out and their misses. Let's say you balkanize that Western, and then you come and balkanize the former Western province and Nyanza province without Kisii. Are you getting that? Then in Nairobi, it is around 60-40. Then naturally, we're gonna take the northeastern and part of Rift Valley, the part of Rift Valley. That one now you come and talk about the Maa community. Then I think we are just good to go. Then the other aspects is purely service delivery and the enlightenment nature of our population. That one is going to guarantee us that. Yes.
Moving forward, now finally, as we're also just coming to a conclusion of today's interview, just a general conclusion on the general direction that your party, that is the ODM party, maybe what general direction should they take, at least to have a step forward in terms of general well-being of the party? Should they at least try and mend these two sides that are emerging as if they are on competing sides within the same party, or should they just let it be naturally as it is, so that at the end of the day, whoever will fall out of the party towards 2027 falls out and goes towards a different path, ama jaribu kushikanisha kila mtu pamoja, they mend their issues, irudi kama chama moja at the end of the day? Finally, as we conclude.
Okay, the biggest concept in our party is to lose none but to have everybody. But this one is only feasible if all of us have the same school of thought. But what I know the general direction our party is going to take is just very simple, that they need me to ensure that we have NDC. With the NDC, I can tell you, Sifuna has shown, Mheshimiwa Babu has shown, Mheshimiwa Kalibamisi has shown, Mheshimiwa Ososi has shown, they are no longer with us. And the biggest ODM fraternity is having one denominator clarion call, that we are no longer going to go back to the streets. And this is the only thing these other guys are trying to give us. So I think the only moral thing these people must do is that we go to the NDC, they are shown this is our position as a party, then they have their latitude. They decide to walk away or toe the line. But I think it is past time to continue massaging individual egos. The party cannot be massaged or cannot be maintained by individual egos. Whoever is having his or her own pride, that one I think should be left out of the party. Because we know where we are coming from, we know where we are going. And the only thing that I think the party should be able to do is to make constructive engagements with the current government party so that we get our fair share, but with the limited conditions. That one I cannot tell you. For us to win the second term, I think we should not now start stamping authority that we need this, you have to remove this, we have that, you have to bring this, we leave this, without this we are not boarding. Like the Kindiki seat, if at all we have to win, I think as gentlemen, there are so many other avenues that we can claim. And with the moral understanding, I think we should go for some of these things. So with that, we are going to acquire, achieve. That's why I've told you, we are working on a platform of not scattering none, but bringing in all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sasa, George Aliet,
Yeah.
asante sana for coming. And at least maybe the next time that we're going to see it, at least sichukue muda venye ingine imechukua, but at least I understand it's also just with the shifting day-to-day activities of both our schedules. But I know when you come here again, at least we shall have seen the developments that will have taken shape in terms of the current analysis of Kenyan politics. And of course, maybe if it's your first time watching and you don't agree with a thing or two that George Aliet here has analyzed on this show, up in the comment section, give us your comments, give us your opinion, so that when even George Aliet himself goes and sits down and watches this interview again, and has honor your comment and has honor your opinion, and maybe adjust a thing or two on what he believes in the current Kenyan politics. And of course, I've been host Ochino, the only Kenyan who is a man, a boy, and also a friend. Till next time, keep it locked.